Hey everybody, it's Nathaniel Avila reporting from Dallas County, and today I'm with Jessica Vega reporting from San Antonio. Uh, what do we do? What are we doing here?
Hello. We are a true crime podcast, and we discuss all sorts of crimes, various amounts of crimes, not just the murder ones, but
Mm-hmm.
we're a good variety.
Right. I just watched American Murder the other day. What did you see it?
Of course, I've
How
been
was it?
following this case for a really long time. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff that was on there I've already seen, and but they did have a lot of surveillance, a lot of footage that they hadn't shown before, like the ring footage and the 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 body cam footage. They've shown some of that, but not as much as they had on the documentary.
Mm-hmm. And
Oh,
I just finished watching Richard Jewell by Clint Eastwood today.
oh,
Have you seen that film?
we moved over. I don't know what that is.
There was the it's the Atlanta bombing attempt that was thwarted uh, by this security officer named Richard Jewell, and he after that the FBI was like, I think he did it. I think he planted the bomb, and so he could report it and he can thwart it and that kind of thing. And he obviously didn't do it. It was this other guy named Eric Rudolph who really did it, and they didn't catch him until like 6 years later, um, because they were focusing all on Richard Jewell. But
At that tunnel vision.
yeah, and man, they put him through a rigmarole. And this was the guy who found the bomb. This was the guy who basically saved a bunch of people. Then again, like two people died, but it would have been a lot more if he didn't find it. But they like crucified him for
Poor
that.
guy.
Yeah. It's on HBO if you want to watch it.
I will. I will. I will.
There was
But
actually
yeah,
a
back to the one that we were talking about.
American Murder.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't included.
Okay.
Like um there was a little clip of a little old lady talking about a truck being parked somewhere close that she hadn't recognized, and they kind of didn't really go back on that, but people say they think that that was Nicole's truck that
Okay.
was parked close to the house
Okay.
when all this happened, because Nicole, the way they made it sound in this documentary that was on Netflix, um she made it sound like she had no idea about anything that was going on.
And Nicole
She
is
knew that he was married, that he was going through a separation, and that was all she said that she knew.
okay. And Nicole's the mistress.
The mistress,
Right.
but they
The other woman.
downplayed a lot of her side. She was even researching stuff like uh what's that lady's name? Kimberly Fry, is it Fry? The
Um.
one that was the Scott Peterson mistress. You remember that case?
No.
Scott Peterson is in jail now for killing his wife and their unborn baby.
Okay.
And he was seeing somebody else while he was married. And okay, so whatever. This chick, she obviously knew. Her search history clearly states that she knew, but nothing ever happened to her. She never got nothing. I don't know if they were just not even trying to link her to it because Chris just blatantly confessed to it. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, we got to continue on with part two of the dismissal of James Comey and the continuation of our Trump miniseries. After you've had like a week to sit on it, what do you feel about it now?
I still feel the same. I still feel the same. It's I want to know how it ends. Is I didn't look into it because I wanted to hear it from you.
Right. So like okay, like I voted. yesterday,
Cool.
and it was great because I kicked some bootay, kicked his butt.
Have you been keeping track of the polls?
No,
I have. They look good. They're like this.
I don't know. That's what they said last year. I mean, last time.
I know.
I'm not gonna
I know.
focus on
We'll
the
see what
polls.
happens. And I feel like Texas has a big swing in that because it's so big.
What was like very big was that a lot of Democratic voters showed up for early voting in Florida, and that's like a huge thing because usually in past elections it's usually the Republican voters who would vote early, but now there's like millions upon millions of Democratic voters voting early in Florida. So, have you seen the town hall debates, the dual town hall debates?
Nope, have not.
Check out Trump's. That's wild. Because he was constantly like being mean to Guthrie, who was the moderator, um, and he would.
Not surprised.
Yeah,
The guy has no respect, no class, no nothing.
yeah, and she was a woman too, so
Doesn't care.
yeah, like, yeah, that's true. And like all like the Trump supporters are like, oh, they're just giving him really hard questions. I bet they were like giving Biden softballs and stuff, which was not true. The moderator for his, which was Stephenopoulos, he did press on a lot of like stuff that Biden was saying, but he just said it in a calm and class manner. And they did like talk about like his past and his stuff that he did that weren't really that great, and he talked about it, which was good, which was good to see. Unlike Trump, who was all like, "I blame China for everything. I tried to blah blah blah." Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So let's continue on with the dismissal of James Comey. This poor guy got the short end of the stick. Let's talk about him. We're going to start with on May 16th, 2017. Now, it was first reported that Comey had prepared a detailed memo following every meeting and telephone call he had with Trump. Now, one memo referred to an Oval Office meeting on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2017, during which Comey says Trump attempted to persuade to abort the investigation into Michael Flynn. The meeting had begun a broader national security briefing the day after Trump had dismissed Flynn as national security advisor. Near the conclusion of the briefing, the president asked those in attendance other than Director Comey to leave the room, including Vice President Pence and Attorney General Sessions. He then reportedly said to Comey, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go." Comey made no commitments to Trump on the subject. The White House responded to the allegations by stating that the president has never asked Comey or anyone else to end any investigation, including any investigation involving General Flynn, and this is not a truthful or accurate portrayal of the conversation between the president and Comey. What do you feel about that? Pretty suspicious.
Sneaky snake.
Okay. So, the Comey memos were first mentioned on May 16th, 2017, in a New York Times article published about a week after Trump dismissed Comey as FBI director, and 4 days after he had implied on Twitter that his conversations with Comey may have been recorded. The report cited two people who read the memos to the Times reporter. The Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post independently reported on the memo's existence. On May 19th, a friend of Comey, Lawfare blog founder Benjamin Witz, came forward as the principal source of the initial New York Times story. In his testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee on June 8th, Comey revealed that he had been the source through a friend later revealed to be Columbia Law School professor Daniel Richman of the public revelation of his Valentine's Day memo. He said he decided to make it public in hopes that it might prompt the appointment of a special counsel. Robert Mueller was appointed as special counsel the next day. So, the Comey memos were first mentioned... Oh, wait, no, I already said that. So, after the New York Times report, leaders of the House Oversight Committee and Intelligence Committee, as well as the Senate Intelligence Committee and Judiciary Committee, requested the production of all Comey memos, with a deadline of May 24th. On May 25th, the FBI said it was still reviewing the committee's requests in view of the appointment of the special counsel. On April 19th, 2018, the Justice Department gave redacted versions of the memos to Congress. These were then given to and published by news agencies. So the New York Times reported that Comey had created the memos as a paper trail to document what he perceived as the president's improper efforts to influence a continuing investigation. Comey shared his notes with a very small circle of people at the FBI and Justice Department. Comey and other senior law officials perceived Trump's remarks as an effort to influence the investigation, but they decided that they would try to keep the conversation secret, even from the FBI agents working on the Russia investigation, so the details of the conversation would not infect that investigation. In his June 8th testimony, Comey explained that he had documented his conversations with Trump because he was honestly concerned he, meaning Trump, might lie about them. I knew there might come a day when I might need a record of what happened, which is what he said. The Washington Post reported 2 Comey associates who had seen the memo described it as 2 pages long and highly detailed. The Times noted that contemporaneous notes created by FBI agents are frequently relied upon in court as credible evidence of conversations. So I saw you shaking your head a little bit on that. Why'd you do that?
Because he's full of crap.
Who is Trump?
Yes.
What is he doing that's making you say that?
I'm just saying, like, he's just... Ugh.
Did you vote yet?
I mean, it's just... You keep going. It's just ridiculous. This whole freaking thing is ridiculous. Like... It's like a child. A child has strings.
Has strings?
And he's the child. He's the child just pulling the strings of the puppets. Because everybody, they have to listen to him. They have to do whatever he says. They just...
Yeah, but did you vote yet, though?
Not yet.
You
not
gotta
yet.
Vote. Early
I have
voting
to go.
ends soon.
I was looking for places that are open early, like early voting.
Oh yeah, early voting's going on now.
Some of the polling locations that are open are only open on election day, so I had to find other ones that are open early.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, keep going.
So several Republican politicians and conservative journalists asserted that Comey could be subject to legal jeopardy for not disclosing the contents of his memos around the time he wrote them. Several legal experts, including Ellen Dershowitz and Robert M. Chesney, contested this view. Anonymous officials told The Hill that 4 of the 7 memos contained information deemed secret or classified. Comey testified that he deliberately wrote some memos without classified information so that they could be shared. Trump's personal attorney, Mark Kasowitz, criticized Comey for leaking the contents of his memos to the press, saying that they were unauthorized disclosures. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders also criticized Comey for leaking to the press and alleged that he broke the law. Sanders cited an article by the legal analyst Jonathan Turley, which alleged that Comey broke his employment agreement and FBI protocol. Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post analyzed Turkey's arguments and contested Sanders' claims that Comey's actions were illegal. Turkey himself has contested Kessler's legal analysis of Comey's actions. University of Texas law professor Stephen Vladek said that there would be no legal blowback for Comey unless the memos involved information relating to the national defense or deprive government of a thing of value. Bradley P. Moss, a partner of the law office of Mark Zaid, argued that Comey's actions were legally justified by laws protecting whistleblowers from unjust persecution. So, according to a Washington Post report, the memos also document Trump's criticism of the FBI for not pursuing leakers in the administration and his wish to see reporters in jail. The report outraged journalists and free speech groups who likened the statement to intimidation tactics used by authoritarian regimes. The Committee to Protect Journalists and Washington Post executive editor Martin Barron were among those who criticized the statement. So now Trump is like attacking people who are blowing the whistle on him, like calling him out on his stuff. So immediately after Comey's dismissal, many Democrats renewed their calls for the appointment of a special prosecutor to continue the investigation into Russia's influence on the election. Democratic attorneys general of the 19 states and D.C. signed a letter calling for a special prosecutor. The White House continued to insist that no special prosecutor was necessary in the Russia investigation, instead saying that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and the next FBI director could lead the investigation. The White House was also said that it was time to move on after the 2016 election. Trump tweeted that Democratic members of Congress calling for special prosecutor and criticizing the dismissal of Comey are phony hypocrites. What do you say to that?
Whatever.
You say whatever? What if he went up to you and say you're a phony hypocrite? What do you say?
You're a piece of shit.
That's what you would say?
Yeah.
You wouldn't just say you have a pot to call black? You have a kettle to call black?
No, he's he's never ever gonna see it like that ever.
So
he's right. He's right. You're wrong.
Okay.
Wrong. Everybody's wrong.
Do you have any evidence to support that, Mr. President? Okay. So on May 17th, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was acting Attorney General, appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel to oversee the Russia investigation. The Trump administration cited an obscure ethics rule to suggest that Mueller might have a conflict of interest. On May 23, 2017, Department of Justice ethics experts announced they had declared Mueller ethically able to function as special counsel. On June 3rd, Rosenstein said that he could recuse himself from supervision of Mueller if he were to become a subject in the investigation due to his role in Comey's dismissal. In that event, the third senior officer in the Justice Department would take over supervision of Mueller's investigation, namely Associate Attorney General Rachel Brand. On March 22nd, 2019, Mueller submitted a special counsel's final report to Attorney General William Barr. On March 24th, Barr sent a 4-page letter to Congress regarding the Mueller report. Okay. So several Democratic members of Congress, among them Illinois Senator Dick Durbin, New York Representative Gerald Nadler, and California Representative Maxine Waters, and some commentators suggesting that Trump's rationale for Comey's dismissal in the interview amounted to a de facto admission of obstruction of justice. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, the ranking Democratic member, said it was extremely important that Comey came to an open hearing in the Senate Committee on Intelligence as quickly as possible to testify as to the status of the U.S.-Russia investigation at this time of hiring. So among members of the Congress, like 138 Democrats, 2 independents, 2 Republicans, called for special independent prosecutor, or an independent commission to examine ties between the Russian government and Trump's associates. 84 Democrats and 5 Republicans called for the independent investigation into Russian ties. For example, Republican Senator John McCain said, "I have long called for a special congressional committee," while Democratic Representative Salud Carbajal stated, "Anything less would imperil our democracy." 42 Republicans and 8 Democrats expressed questions for concerns about Comey's firing. Examples of members in Congress in this group are Republican Senator Marco Rubio, Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, Democratic Representative Marcia L. Fudge, and 98 Republicans, but no Democrats were neutral or supportive in Comey's firing. 141 Republicans and 11 Democrats did not release a statement. So multiple Democratic members of Congress discussed an impeachment clock for Trump, saying that he was moving toward impeachment and raising a possibility of bringing forth articles of impeachment for obstruction of justice and criminal malfeasance if proof of illegal activity is found. Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut stated in an interview, "It may well produce another United States versus Nixon on a subpoena that went to United States Supreme Court. It may well produce impeachment proceedings, although we're very far from that possibility." So, on May 10th, 2017, the day after being fired by Trump, Comey was invited to testify before a closed session of the Senate Intelligence Committee on May 16th, 2017. Comey declined to testify at a closed session, indicating that he would be willing to testify at a public, open hearing. On May 17th, the Senate Intelligence Committee invited Comey to testify publicly. Comey accepted the invitation and testified on June 8th. On June 7th, 2017, an advance copy of Comey's prepared congressional testimony was submitted to the Senate Intelligence Committee. In it, he said that on Valentine's Day 2017, the president attempted to persuade him to let go of any investigation into Michael Flynn. Okay, so he clarified that, "I understood the president to be requesting that we drop any investigation into Flynn in connection with false statements about his conversations with the Russian ambassador in December. I did not understand the president to be talking about the broader investigation into Russia or possible links to his campaign." He added that Trump requested his personal loyalty, to which Comey replied he would give his honest loyalty to the president. Remember that? So Comey stated that on 3 occasions he volunteered to Trump that the latter was not personally under investigation. Comey stated that Trump requested that he publicly declare this so that his image could be improved. But Comey also stated that he did not respond to Trump's request with an explanation of why he would not do so. Comey testified that his primary reason for not publicly saying Trump was not under investigation was to avoid a duty to correct in the event Trump later became subject to an investigation.
Smart man.
Yeah. And the termination... Huh?
But you could see he had a feeling.
He had a feeling?
He had a feeling.
Yeah. Do you think the feeling was correct?
I think it was. And I think he didn't get there.
Mm-hmm. So, in the termination letter of May 9th, 2017, Trump said, "I greatly appreciate you informing me on 3 separate occasions that I am not under investigation." In his live testimony, Comey was asked why he thought he was fired, and he replied, "I take the president at his word that I was fired because of the Russia investigation." He took strong exception to Trump's claims that he had fired Comey because the FBI was in disarray and poorly led, saying these were lies, plain and simple. Comey also confirmed that the FBI investigations had not targeted Trump personally. On May 9th and on June 9th and June 11th, Twitter comments on Comey's testimony, Trump accused Comey of so many false statements and lies and very cowardly leaks, but added that Comey's testimony had amounted to total and complete vindication of Trump. Later that day, Trump held a brief news conference during which he insisted he did not ask Comey to end the investigation into Flynn and was willing to say so under oath. He twice dodged questions about whether there are tapes of the White House conversations. So, what do you think about that?
I think we all know what I think.
You think we all know what you think? So let's see what the scholars have to say. So,
Okay.
a number of professors of law, political science, and history have criticized the firing and argue that Trump's action destabilized democratic norms and the rule of law in the U.S. Some have argued that Trump's action creates a constitutional crisis. Parallels
Amy.
have been drawn with other leaders who have slowly eroded democratic norms in their countries, as well as Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Hungary's Viktor Orban. Political science professor Sherry Berman said that these leaders slowly chipped away at democratic institutions, undermined civil society, and slowly increased their own power. In a May 2017 essay published in the Washington Post, Harvard constitutional scholar Lawrence Tribb wrote, "The time has come for Congress to launch an impeachment investigation of President Trump for obstruction of justice." Tribb argued that Trump's conduct rose to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors that are impeachable offenses under the Constitution. He added, "It will require serious commitment to constitutional principle and courageous willingness to put devotion to the national interest above self-interest and party loyalty for a Congress of the president's own party to initiate an impeachment inquiry." So Duke law professor and former federal prosecutor Samuel W. Well said that Trump's attempt to quiet Comey by referencing secret tapes of their conversations in retaliation could be viewed as an effort to intimidate a witness to any future investigation on obstruction of justice. GW law professor Jonathan Turley, who participated in impeachment proceedings against Bill Clinton, cautioned that the Comey memo is not sufficient basis for impeachment and raises as many questions about Comey's behavior as about Trump's. What do you think about that?
I think it's crappy.
So Harvard law professor Jack Goldsmith says that claims of grandstanding or politicization by Comey of the FBI probe into possible ties between Trump associates and Russia were unsubstantiated. Goldsmith wrote, "The only thing Comey ever said publicly about the investigation into the Russia DNC hack Trump associates in Broglio was to confirm, with the approval of the Attorney General, its existence." New York University law professor Ryan Goodman wrote, "If President Donald Trump orchestrated the decision to fire the director of FBI to subvert or undermine the integrity of investigations into the Trump campaigns, possible coordination with Russia, and may amount to an obstruction of justice." A report published by the Brookings Institution on October 2017 raised the question of obstruction of justice on the dismissal of Comey, stating that Trump by himself or conspiring with subordinates may have attempted to impede the investigations of Michael Flynn and Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. The report put aside the subject of impeachment pending the outcome of the 2017 special counsel investigation by Robert Mueller. So legal experts are divided as to whether Trump's alleged request that Comey and the investigation can be considered obstruction of justice. Jens David Olin of Cornell University Law School and Jonathan Turley of George Washington University have argued that the request does not neatly fit into any of the practices commonly considered to fall under the obstruction of justice statute. Michael Gernalt, Geralt of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and Julie O'Sullivan at the Georgetown University Law Center argued that it is hard to prove that Trump had an intent to obstruct the investigation. Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
You look like you're kind of done.
I told you I was tired.
Okay. So Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz said it's a very, very high bar to get over obstruction of justice for a president. Harvard law professor Jack Goldsmith noted that it was implausible to indict a sitting president, noting that the remedy for a criminal violation would be a impeachment instead. So
So I wonder if obstruction of justice for a president needs to be obvious, like fraud, stuff like that, like a really solid trail.
right.
And this is kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Hmm.
Erwin Shereminsky of University of California, Irvine School of Law have argued that it was indeed obstruction of justice. Noah Feldman of Harvard University noted that the alleged request could be grounds for impeachment. University of Texas law professor Stephen Vladek said it was reasonable for people to start talking about obstruction. Harvard law professor Alex Whitting said that Trump's actions were very close to obstruction of justice, but still is inconclusive. Christopher Slobogin of Vanderbilt University Law School said it was a viable case it could be made, but that it was weak. John Dean, former White House counsel to Richard Nixon, called the memo about the private conversation with President Trump concerning the Flynn investigation a smoking gun and noted that good intentions do not erase criminal intent. So, that's what the scholars are saying. Let's see what the media says. So,
Okay.
many media outlets continue to be highly critical of the move. For many critics, the immediate worry was the integrity of the FBI's investigation into the Trump administration's ties with Russia. Some commentators describe Comey's firing by the Trump administration as a Nixonian act, comparing it to Richard Nixon's orders to three of his cabinet officials to fire Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox during the Watergate investigation. A number of commentators, including Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson, former CBS News journalist Dan Rather, and former New York editor Jeffrey Frank, accused the Trump administration of a cover-up by firing Comey with the intent to curtail the FBI's investigation out of fear of a possible discovery of the extent of Trump's alleged ties to Russia. Soon after Trump's election, Benjamin Wittes, writing in Lawfare, had predicted the future firing of Comey, writing, "If Trump chooses to replace Comey with a synthetic or sycophantic yes man, or if he permits Comey to resign over law or principle, that will be clear bellwether to both the national security and civil libertarian communities that things are going terribly wrong." Immediately after the dismissal, they reiterated their position, stating that Trump's firing of Comey undermines the credibility of his own presidency, and implying that the reason given for it probably a pretext, as Trump had previously praised Comey's handling of the Clinton investigation. So, some commentators observed an emerging pattern of Trump firing government officials who investigated his interests, such as Sally Yates, Preet Bharara, and Comey. Other media outlets were more supportive. So, some sources stated that regardless of circumstances, Comey had lost the confidence of the political leadership of all sides of the spectrum, and therefore his termination was unavoidable, in spite of criticizing the president's handling of it and questioning his motives. So some went so far as to decry Democrats and other Trump opponents who criticized the termination after previously having criticized Comey himself for the handling of the Clinton scandal. A few called for a reopening of the Clinton investigation now that Comey had left. So French daily Le Monde described the firing as a coup de force against the FBI. German magazines Der Spiegel and Bild drew parallels with Nixon's Saturday Night Massacre, with Der Spiegel saying that few believe that Comey was not fired for overseeing a criminal probe into possible ties between Trump's associates and Russia. The Economist wrote in an editorial that Comey's firing reflects terribly on Trump and urged principal Senate Republicans to put country before party and establish either an independent commission similar to the 9/11 Commission or a bipartisan select committee to investigate the Russia allegations, with either body to have substantial investigatory resources and subpoena power. So now, like, other countries are starting to get in on this, trying to, like, put in their 2 cents, saying that they believe that Trump most likely fired Comey because of the Russia investigation.
Well, duh.
So that's basically what it looks like from the outside looking in. At least I think it is. It might be
Yeah.
French American.
Yeah. I mean, even these these people that don't, they're not even from here. Are like, excuse me, sir. Obstruction of justice. It just feels like this man just. I'm the president. I can do whatever I want. It doesn't matter what the Constitution says. It doesn't matter what the Senate says. It doesn't matter what anybody says. What I say goes, and that's it.
That seems
Here's
to
an
be
executive order, and that's it. You know what I mean?
that seems to be his mindset to a lot of things. Like he gives like a bunch of executive orders.
Just trying to like override everything, all the work the Senate has tried to do. Here's an executive order. Here's the executive order for the, what is that? The national border, the state of emergency for the border wall.
There was no state of emergency. There was nothing emergency about that.
Our borders are on a crisis, buddy.
Maybe made by him. Locking up people for no reason. Well, the reason was because they crossed the border, but that doesn't mean you could just like lock them up like that.
Build a wall with all your billions, buddy.
Yeah, bad.
But that's how they keep their billions, because they don't spend their money.
So in Comey's June 28th testimony, he said that it was not for him to say whether Trump's Valentine's Day request amounted to obstruction of justice, adding, "But that's a conclusion I'm sure special counsel will work toward to try and understand that the intention was there and whether that's an offense." Some legal experts have said that Comey's testimony advanced the argument that Trump attempted to obstruct justice in his dealings with then FBI Director James Comey. Diane Marie Aman of University of Georgia, Paul Butler of Georgetown University, Brandon Garrett of University of Virginia, Lisa Kim Griffin of Duke University, Alexander Sessis of Loyola University, and Alex Whitting of Harvard University said that an obstruction of justice case was advanced by the fact that Comey understood Trump's words as an order to drop the ongoing FBI investigation. Joshua Dressel of Ohio State University and Jimmy Gurule of University of Notre Dame said after the testimony that a prima facie case of obstruction of justice had been established. Samuel Gross of the University of Michigan and Dressel said that there were sufficient grounds to indict Trump for obstruction of justice were he not president, but that sitting president cannot be federally indicted, only impeached. So, Samuel Buell of Duke University said, based on Comey's testimony, we know to a virtual certainty that the president is now under investigation for obstruction of justice. Mark Tushnet of Harvard University said that there are lots of pieces of evidence that could go into making a criminal case and very little to weaken such a case, but nothing that in itself shows criminal intent. So, former United States Attorney Preet Bharara said in an interview with ABC News from June 11th, 2017, there's absolutely evidence to begin a case regarding obstruction of justice by Trump. Bharara went on to note, no one knows right now whether the state is a provable case of obstruction, but there is no basis to say there is no obstruction. So, what do you think about that?
I don't know.
So let's talk about the Baker testimony. So the firing of Comey has been seen as a national security threat by the FBI, and former FBI General Counsel James A. Baker testified that it obstructed an investigation, and that obstruction created a national security threat because it hurt our ability to figure out what the Russians had done. This relation between a possible crime by Trump and national security concerns was seen by former law enforcement officials as possible attempt by Trump to impede or even end the Russia investigation, and thus the reason the criminal and counterintelligence elements of the Russian interference investigation were coupled together. So on December 9th, 2019, U.S. Prosecutor General Michael Horowitz testified to the House Judiciary Committee that despite making 17 mistakes in their application to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, the FBI showed no political bias during the investigation of Trump and the Russian government. A redacted version of his report was released the same day, thus ending the story of the dismissal of James Comey.
Now that was an injustice.
Really?
Dismissing Comey, a man that seemed to have worked his whole career to be an honest man and do his job the way he's supposed to do it, and because of that, he lost it.
Mm-hmm.
He got fired because he didn't want him to. I feel like if it started with him saying that he was going to be honest, like truthfully honest. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was the start of Trump being like, what does that mean, sir? And so he did his job truthfully. He never once went and said, Trump is not guilty. We're not investigating him. This isn't about him. He never put that out there. He never said that like Trump wanted him to. And so that also pissed him off. Mm-hmm. Like, my reputation is falling and falling and falling, and you're doing nothing to help me. So I'm going to get rid of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's not his job to make the president look good.
No, it's not. But he's so used to people doing everything that he wants and everything that he says. And so when people go against the grain with him, no, that's just not happening. I'm the president of the United States. You don't dismiss me.
I think I can dismiss you anytime I want. Oh.
Right? Like, I feel like now that he has that, he's not just Donald Trump. He's the president. You must do what he says.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna get fired.
Mm-hmm. That happened to a lot of people.
Fired.
Who dare say no. But like, that's another thing. Like, we can't indict him right now because he's a sitting president.
Mm-hmm.
Because all we can do is impeach him, which we did. But we couldn't remove him from office because the Senate is Republican owned, and mm-hmm. he basically, like, they kiss his butt so much, the Republicans in the Senate.
Yep.
And they, like, I remember they said that they're not going to admit any witnesses, no evidence, nothing. Like, they said we're not going to have any of that.
Of course.
And then they voted, and then all Republicans voted yes. All Republicans voted no to impeachment and removal, and all Democrats voted yes. But since there's more Republicans than Democrats, that just didn't happen. The only Republican that did vote yes on impeachment was Romney. And Trump just, like, berated him for it. He viewed him as, like, a traitor.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
You see, and that's why that is exactly why the other Republicans.
Imagine.
Oh, what is he doing now? I asked you that the last time you said we're gonna get there. What is he doing now?
Oh yeah, I thought you were gonna talk about that. Well, on the on the summer of 2017, Comey gave like a convention speech on a series of lectures at Howard University, which is a historically black university in Washington, D.C. In the fall of 2018, Comey returned to his alma mater, the College of William and Mary, to teach a course on ethical leadership. So, and he became an executive professor in education and a non-tenured position at the college. And Comey joined assistant professor Drew Stelges to teach the course during the 2018-2019 academic year. So in February 2019, in the midst of controversy surrounding a blackface picture in New Virginia, Governor North Rotham's medical school yearbook, and a national debate about the removal of Confederate monuments and memorials, Comey published an op-ed in the Washington Post suggesting that Virginia should get rid of the Confederate statues in Richmond. Expressing bipartisan horror at blackface photos is essential, but removing the statues would show all of America that Virginia really has changed. On May 2019, op-ed published in a New York Times as Attorney General William Barr was scheduled to be questioned in a congressional hearings, Comey wrote, "Accomplished people lacking inner strength can't resist the compromises necessary to survive Mr. Trump, and that adds up to something they will never recover from. It takes character like Mr. Mattis's to avoid the damage because Trump eats your soul in small bites."
Yeah.
He concluded with, "Of course, to stay, you must be seen as on this team, so you make further compromises. You use his language, praise his leadership, but tout his commitment to values. And then you are lost. He has eaten your soul."
Mm-hmm.
And now in 2020, the Comey's tenure as the FBI director has been depicted in the Showtime TV show, The Comey Rule. So that's what he's doing now.
Teaching and then speeches.
Oh yeah, like teaching and writing op-eds.
Man.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know.
I mean, I don't know if that sucks, but coming from working way up here to just kind of doing like a little bit of work here and there, it's kind of like, oof.
I think it's probably a well-deserved break after everything he's been through. I
hope that's the way he sees it.
Yeah, I can probably see like wanting to slow down after being like thrown like a barrage, like a blizzard of stuff like in your face. I can understand if you want to like just wind down and just teach at a university for a little bit, and write some op-eds for the New York Times here and there. So,
I wonder though, like what's next for him if he doesn't want to be teaching at a university or giving speeches and stuff. Like, can he go back into working for law? Probably. Or is he blacklisted?
I think he's probably waiting till after the Trump administration is gone. That's what I think. That's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Before returning back into criminal justice. Because, I mean, man, that was tough. Like, imagine getting fired for doing your job, right?
I wonder if it's a bit traumatizing. Like, you know what? I don't even want to do it anymore. Like, no. You know what I mean?
I don't know, because I think you can tell that Trump was a very special case, and that if it was anybody but Trump, he probably wouldn't have happened like this.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Mm-hmm. You're right.
So, like...
Well, okay. Yep. I'm glad to hear that he's doing something.
Mm-hmm. He seems to be having a pretty decent life after working for the federal government.
Probably a blessing in disguise for this dude.
That's what I'm thinking.
You know, I mean, everybody working in politics right now, I bet you it's pretty... a big shit show.
Oh yeah, like geez, there's multiple books written about it. Let me think. I've read the anonymous book called A Warning, which was about the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. Up to I believe fall last year in 2019, because I remember the impeachment proceedings was going on, by the time that book was published. Um, and it was written by an anonymous staff member at the White House. And we don't know who it is. Who knows? Maybe in several years, this person will come out. But it was attributed to anonymous. That's who it said who wrote it. Then there was like another book called Rage, which was written by one of the guys who broke the Watergate scandal for the Washington Post. So he wrote a book called Rage, which was also about the Trump administration, specifically about like the handling of the coronavirus and all that kind of stuff. And what else? There was another book that was written by his niece, by Trump's niece, called I think it was called Too Much and Not Enough. Like about his life and about like how he became who he is.
Too much money, not enough love.
Pretty much. And it was written by his niece, and I remember Trump's brother wanted to block it from being published, but I believe he passed away. And he passed away. We don't know if it was because of coronavirus or not. We think so, but we don't know for sure. And Trump did not shed a tear.
Of course not.
I don't know. Maybe he did behind closed doors, but he didn't seem to be that bothered by it.
Cut off. Like this man has no emotions. You see the way he is with his wife? It's so weird. It's so like they make me uncomfortable.
Do you see like there was like this compilation?
Like, oh.
There's this compilation of Melania just slapping his hand away.
She's like, that's not part of the contract.
Yeah, hilarious.
No, I want to see that.
And then he's all like, I wish I could date my daughter Ivanka. Remember, you did say that.
Gross.
You see those pictures of him with
Yes.
Ivanka, like when she was a kid?
Yes.
It's so weird and so uncomfortable.
I know, it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's just a kid being a kid, like, and he's all...
Yeah, I know. There is some allegations that Trump partook in Epstein's services, if you know what I mean.
I know. Oh, I know. That's a whole other episode, though.
Yeah, I don't know, because we did say we're not going to do pedophilia and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but
I don't know.
Yeah, he's been directly linked to that.
Right. Same thing with Clinton also. Bill Clinton was also.
Yeah, him too.
Said to be a good friend of Epstein, and that's also bad. And also same thing for Prince Henry, one of the royal family members.
Some prince.
Yeah.
Prince.
Yeah, and I remember there was a photo released. Like I seen this in the documentary series Filthy Rich, which was about Epstein.
Right.
And they released like this photo of the Prince Henry or something like that. One of the princes. I don't know if it was Prince Henry. I don't know. No, the prince. With this girl that Epstein provided to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did an interview for BBC about that, and then he was like, how do you explain this photo? And then he's like, I don't remember taking that. And then the reporter was like, well, this is you. This is obviously you. This is you in the photo right here. And then he was like, I don't remember taking that. I don't know how that happened. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, that's a load of malarkey.
Malarkey, for sure.
Yeah.
He's never going to admit to that. He's never, ever going to admit to that.
Yeah, like, no one's going to straight up say, like, oh, I'm a pedophile.
Nah.
No one's going to say that. But, man, I mean, it was obviously him. It was him in the photo. You can't deny that. So, like things like that. Yeah, like, he's, like, Melania would rather be anywhere but there. I think she's only there This is my opinion. It might be because of Barron. What?
That and hello, the money. He probably has a prenup with her too, so she's in it.
Probably, you're right.
He's dumb, but he knows when it comes to money that he needs to protect his money.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen like clips of Barron at like the rallies of the campaigns, like in the background, and he looks like he would rather be anywhere else in the world.
He's a kid. Like, what kid wants to be at a freaking campaign rally?
Like he's constantly like rolling his eyes at whatever Trump's saying.
Probably like Trump when he was a freaking kid too. Like he doesn't care. Whatever.
I remember.
He just wants to be a kid.
Yeah, I know. But like I know that also I think it was Trump's dad who said that he wished Trump's plane would crash with him in it.
Oh,
yeah.
That's mean.
I know. I think the story was like, hey, did you hear that your son Donald is going from here to here on a plane? And then Trump's dad was like, I hope it crashes.
Dang, that's hardcore.
Uh-huh. Do you think that he humanizes Trump a bit? No.
I think he doesn't like him just as much as the rest of us don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's his dad. Isn't that sad? He probably feels like, man, I should have never. Man, this fool should have never given him anything.
Jeez, yeah.
Look at him now. The monster he's created. A big baby walking around embarrassing America.
Yeah, I think that's what the book Too Much and Not Enough is about. And like, and then he also gave him like a small loan of $1 million. And then he declared bankruptcy 6 times. Yeah, I know, but he still declared bankruptcy 6 times.
I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what now he's an expert businessman. Yeah. And then yeah, I mean he did a bunch of bad stuff even before he was president. Like he would refuse to like sell units to African American people.
Mm-hmm.
Like bad, like just terrible stuff like that. But you know, that's the dismissal of James Comey. We'll have more Trump related crimes in next week's episode.
Yep. I believe we're gonna have Trump related anything for the next, I guess, up until the election.
Yeah, that's what the plan is. It's going to be Trump related stuff until the election day on the 3rd. I believe it's the 3rd, right?
November 3rd is election day. Yeah. So get out and vote.
Yeah. I'm going to do that. Kick his butt. Yeah. And we're not going to do like the Biden stuff, like Hunter's alleged stuff with the Ukraine, because that's just unsubstantiated stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that any of that is true because there's no evidence. People just saying things.
It's nah.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue with another juicy story next week, or like another interesting story, should I say, about another Trump-related crime.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. You know what the best type of prize is? A surprise.
Sure.
Yeah. Ever thought about in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory how 5 white kids got the golden tickets? Because it was distributed all around the world. So how does that happen?
I don't know, man. But I know a little poor ass little white boy won one.
Okay.
From a nickel he found in the street. So I mean,
I think what happened was I think the candy guy gave it to him, or did he buy one?
No, he bought he bought it on his way out. And the guy was like, here, take this one, because that was like the closest one. So
Oh yeah,
give me
that's
your
right.
money. And he's like, for this one.
That's right.
So man, I've seen that movie one too many times.
Mm-hmm. Have you watched Tom and Jerry in the Chocolate Factory?
What?
It's Tom and Jerry in the Chocolate Factory, where it's just a animated shot for shot recreation of of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but with Tom and Jerry in the background.
Never heard of it.
Tom and Jerry things. Check it out. That's
I don't
a
know what you're watching.
It's a wild movie that didn't need to be made, but it was made.
All right. Well, I
yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I've been Nathaniel Avila.
And I'm Jessica Vega.
Yeah, and this has been Tom and Jerry and the True Crime Podcast. Where it's
True
just
Crime Podcast.
And where it's just us talking, doing the same thing that we always do, but it's like Tom and Jerry's in the background. That's the movie. That's the special. That's what we do. So we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.